My name is Leela Mathews. I'm a Staten Islander and I am very proud of my immigrant heritage.
My name is Vincent Verdi. I'm a Staten Islander and I'm proud of my immigrant heritage.
My name is Cesar Vargas. I'm a Staten Islander and I'm proud of my immigrant heritage.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed, sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles.
My name is Cesar Vargas. I live in Annandale, Staten Island, and I've been a proud resident of Staten Island for the past 15 years.
My name is Leela Mathews. I live in Staten Island for the past 35 years. Well, the past 35 years I live in America. Everything in Staten Island. I live in Manor Heights.
My name is Vincent Verdi. I live in Great Kills, Staten Island, and I've been there for 34 years.
I came here almost 30 years ago. I came when I was 5 years old after my father passed away, and my mother, like any mother, seeking a better opportunity for their families, decided to take one of the greatest risks that many other people have taken throughout American history, which is risk everything and go up north, pretty much immigrate to the U.S. And for me, the last day that we were in Mexico, I remember her picking us up from school, then taking us to the town square where we took the last picture that we were going to have. And in that picture, for me, it's very memorable because I'm in the middle with my school yellow uniform, my little brother to my left with his school uniform, my two older sisters, and they were about 4 years old, 8 and 10 years old, and my mother next to us in a beautiful blue dress towering over us. And for me, it was a very special photo, but I never realized how special it was until I paid attention to it. In that photo, there was no luggage. There was no carry-ons. It was just one plastic bag to take to the U.S. and start a new life. That was our American dream in that plastic bag.
I am originally from the great country of India. I immigrated to America in 1984. I'm 69 years old. From that 69, 35 years in Staten Island, New York.
The last day that we actually crossed, we were in the U.S.-Mexico border in Tijuana, Mexico, where we were waiting in the middle of the night with Coyote, the person that helps immigrants cross, and we were just patiently waiting until he shouted, "Vámonos, let's go." And at that moment, we were running, and for me, I had no clue what I was doing. I just knew that we were running, but I can imagine what was going in my mom's mind and heart, that anything could have happened that night. She could have been killed, she could have been raped, we could have been injured, but the love of our children was more powerful than anything. And for me, one of the most memorable moments was that she was holding my hand tightly throughout the whole time that we were crossing the desert. And at that moment, for me, she was telling me that no matter what, she was there to protect me.
It was a struggle with the two little kids. And in America, there were people, when I came, the people were all Indian people. The Malayali community is deep-rooted. So I came here as a person with no roots, and it was very difficult. But thank God I have two wonderful children. My daughters were so amazing. Without them, I could have never pulled.
My father is from Palermo, Sicily. He immigrated here right after World War II. So my father actually was working on an Italian freighter, and that had pulled into the port of Boston somewhere around 1949, 1948. And at that time, they would let the people off the ship just to get some R&R and just and some recreation. My father actually did not board the ship and became what we know as jumping ship or a ship jumper. And he then came down, took a train down to Brooklyn, where he did have some family that immigrated here back in the 20s and stayed with them. But at all that time, when he was here, he was undocumented and considered an illegal alien. It could be deported at any time if he was captured by immigration and all. Before my father met my mother around about a year or two after he arrived here in New York. And at that time, too, he told me many stories that how he was extorted by other people that were going to report him to, at that time we would call immigration authorities, or we talked about today, or ICE, and have him deported. He had to pay money to keep them silent. This is something that keeps in my memory all the time. He met my mother not soon after that, and she was first generation of Italian-American descent. And they married in 1952 and honeymooned up in Niagara Falls in upstate New York. And many people did that. That was the honeymoon area. But my father had another special reason why he needed to go to upstate New York, Niagara Falls. He needed to walk from the New York side of the Niagara Falls to the Canadian side, and then walk back over to the New York side into the United States again, and show the authorities there that he has a legal port of entry into the United States, being married to my mother at the time.
When I was working in VA, that was the time the HIV AIDS scare was going on, and the Vietnam veterans were very active then. Few of them very angry with me because I am from India. They used to tell me, go back to your country, not in a good way. So one day I told one of them, like anybody else, I would love to go back to India, but now I'm an American citizen, they will throw me out. Now you are telling me to go back, so where do I go now? He calmed down, he hugged me, and he said, Leela, you are a very good nurse, you can stay here as long as you please.
But also being from Italian-American descent, you grow up with the stereotypes of that Italian-Americans are criminals, they use the word mafia, and you can see some of the programming, and up until this day, of the portrayal of Italian-Americans as being gangsters or whatever. So I never really felt that as a child. However, as an adult in college and also in my professional career, I would hear innuendos or hear things that were inside of my heritage of being an Italian American. And it sort of resonates to me today of what's happening with many immigrant groups.
I guess for me, for so long, it wasn't the question of when did I feel an American, but for me the question was more, was I American enough? Growing up in elementary school, junior high school, learning to speak English, once I learned to speak English, I consider myself American, but I asked myself, is that enough? I was able to graduate high school and eventually graduate college, and now had a college degree, something that many parents and many families here strive for. But for me, it was still a question, like, is that American enough? Eventually becoming an attorney in New York State, being licensed here, I thought that was the American dream, and it's still the question of, was that American enough, despite of what we were seeing across the country in the politics, that if you came here undocumented, that you are not enough, you're not an American. And most recently, when I graduated from basic training, joining the U.S. Armed Forces in the Army, going through 5 months of painful, excruciating training, and eventually wearing the uniform of the U.S. Armed Forces, and now as a soldier in the U.S. Army Reserve, I think that question was still ringing of, am I now American enough? Getting to the big journey of being admitted into the New York bar, where we were facing one of the most legal obstacles, which was whether or not to admit someone who was undocumented in the state of New York. It was unprecedented. The courts, the judges did not know how to deal with that issue. But again, with the love of my mother, with the love of a community that just stood behind me, we were able to win a significant victory to allow the admission of lawyers into the legal profession. And on February 3rd of 2016, I became New York's first undocumented attorney.
Then I got my license. First I got a LPN license, then I got my RN license. I worked for Clover Lake Nursing Home for 5 years. Before that I worked as a health aide, therapy aide at a UCP. Then I got a job in Clover Lake Nursing Home. Since then my life changed. My children's suffering was getting over with it. So from there I got my RN license. Then I went to work in Veterans Hospital, Brooklyn. VA made me very strong. I got better friends, American friends, or different color of people, and they were very helpful. Even my veterans were very nice.
My father was a baker. He worked 6 days a week, like 12-hour days, and he worked predominantly at night. And the people that he worked with were Italian speaking, so he never learned the English language. I remember my father trying to study for his American citizenship, and which he got in 1960, and I was about maybe 4 or just almost 5 years old at the time. So I remember accompanying my father and my mother to the federal buildings in downtown Brooklyn, and waiting outside the room where he's being examined by an examiner. And the examiner right away would say to him, "So what's your name?" My father gave his name, and he asked him who was the president of the United States was, and my father said Eisenhower. And then he began to ask other questions like who was the vice president, where do you work? And my father at that point, his English and comprehensive English was almost non-existent, and the few minutes that he was in there turned more not into an examination, but it sounded like into an interrogation to a 5-year-old sitting outside. I guess after a few minutes passed, the door swings open, the examiner comes out and looks at my mother and father, and he says, "If it wasn't for you two to be out here, I never would have passed him his exam to be an American citizen." And because that was kind of dramatic for me, I also remember him being sworn in that day with a bunch of other immigrants, being sworn in there and raising his hand and taking the oath of allegiance to the United States of America. And it was a real sense of pride about that for me and for my family.
From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities frame. "Keep ancient lands your storied pomp," cries she with silent lips.
For me, the American dream is having an opportunity where every person, regardless of your race, gender, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, can have an opportunity, can have a chance to prosper in this great nation. This country is not perfect, but that's okay. We have each other, we have generations ahead of us to do our part to ensure that we can improve what the foundation of what this country is about, and making sure that we can continue to allow people to pursue this beautiful concept of the American dream, but at the same time never losing that being American means also being proud that you're American, but also that you're proud being Muslim, being proud that you're Mexican, being proud that you're Jamaican, being proud that you're gay, lesbian, and so on. You know, for us, it doesn't take away from what it means to be an American. And for me, I always say that I'm 100% Mexican, but I'm also 100% American.
The American dream for me is I should be treated like any other American. There is no difference because of who I am or my accent. People used to make fun of me for my accent. I take it with a grain. I say I have a Staten Island accent. You have any problem with that? So Americans should be treated equally, and everybody should have access to the police department or They should be treating everyone, especially the police department, should be treating everyone equally.
The American dream for me is that you're only being held back by your own abilities to do what you want to do and to live a life, to earn money, to accumulate wealth, to have your children and your grandchildren do better than you. What I love about Staten Island is that it's a diverse community. Not every neighborhood is diverse, but it's a diverse community not only ethnically, but culturally.
On Staten Island, I've seen the worst of what the xenophobia climate has shown us, but I also seen the best of neighbors coming together and defending our immigrant brothers and sisters.
I love Staten Island. The Four Seasons, I love it. I don't know, the snow, even though I'm coming from the south part of India, we never saw snow other than on movies. I like all Four Seasons, and Staten Island is very beautiful. And to tell you the truth, that is the only place I know. I don't know Bronx or Brooklyn or any other place, so I can't say. I love Staten Island. 35 years of my life in Staten Island, it's my home.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
My name is Leela Mathews. I'm a Staten Islander, and I am very proud of my immigrant heritage.
My name is Vincent Verdi. I'm a Staten Islander, and I'm proud of my immigrant heritage.
My name is Cesar Vargas. I'm a Staten Islander, and I'm proud of my immigrant heritage.